Well, hello and welcome to this. I think it's our third webinar as part of the 123 Go initiative, heading towards Easter 2022. Today, you'll see I'm joined by Nicki, who I'm going to introduce to you in a moment. But let me first just tell you a bit more about the 123 Go project. And so welcome if you're watching live or if you're watching a recording of this. 123 Go is an initiative, a vision that Chris Duffett had on Bardsey Island a couple of years ago, where he just saw thousands of people taking one gospel, 2 by 2, onto the streets of this nation over the 3 days of Easter. And in 2021, that manifested itself in us praying in pairs in various places up and down the country, setting foundations for Easter 2022, which we hope, COVID allowing, we'll be able to be out on the streets and the high streets and our neighborhoods, creatively sharing one gospel 2 by 2 over those 3 days. So it's great to have you with us. If you're joining us, do put in the comments where you're from. And as we go through this conversation with Nicki, who I'll introduce in just a moment, do put comments in, do ask questions, and I'll pass those on to Nicki. So, Nicki, really good to have you with us. And yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself. It'd be really good for those who are watching to know a bit about who you are.
So I'm Nicki, I'm married to Stephen, and I go to a church in South Buckinghamshire, live in South Buckinghamshire. And I used to be a paediatric occupational therapist for about 20 years, but now have the deep joy of raising our 3 children and helping them to grow into the people that God made them to be. And
brilliant. Yeah, that's great. And in the previous webinars or these lunchtime chats or whatever we want to call them, we've had Chris Duffett and we've had Yinka Oyakan, both with ministries that are people have heard about. Yinka and the Turning, and Chris Duffett and all the work that he does with the Light College and Collective. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, Nicki, that whilst those two are inspirational, and it was really good to chat to them and to hear some of the stuff that they do. One of the reasons we've connected with you is because you can look at Chris and you can look at Yinka and you think, well, that's what they can do. They are super evangelists or what have you. I could never do that, but wanted to talk to you not because you're ordinary, but because you're.
I'm okay with that.
But in a sense that God, you're we can connect with you as someone that goes to church, just wants to follow Jesus, and just be obedient to what God's saying to you, and in a sort of accessible way that just actually, if you can do it, Nicki, then maybe there are people watching who can be inspired to just have a go as well. So, as I say, hopefully people connect with that and not feel I'm being rude to Nicki about, because actually, I mean, what I think God does is take us ordinary human beings and does do extraordinary things through us, in the power of His Spirit. And we've been talking in these 123 Go conversations about evangelism, and I know that's something that you've been passionate about for a while. So tell us a bit about that passion for evangelism, where that's come from, and how that. I think. Go on.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just going to say, when I came back to faith when I was 24, I think as I've been brought up as a Christian, I went to a United Reformed Church, and then I lost my faith when I was at uni, and then I came back to faith when I was 24. I had quite a significant encounter with Jesus, and after that, I just thought I want everybody else to know that how real Jesus is, that He's not just a lovely character in a storybook, and and it's just about being a good person and everything. I really want people to know how incredibly real He is. And actually, my dad gave me a book called One Holy Fire by Nicki Cruz. And I actually read that before I read Nicki Cruz's testimony about, being a gang member and becoming a Christian. But I read One Holy Fire first, and it was all about reaching out to people in all sorts of different contexts and praying and God doing amazing things in those people's lives. And so I think that really fired me up a bit more. And then lots of testimonies people share in church about, friends coming to faith or sharing with other people, and some short-term mission stuff. And I went to YWAM for 6 months when I was 29. That was amazing, really amazing, inspiring time. So yeah, I just love to tell people about Jesus in whatever context I find myself in that day.
Yeah. What does that look like in terms of speaking to people? Just, give us some examples of what you've done. And
okay. So obviously it depends where I am that day. So I had last year was quite a lovely one last Christmas. I'll say some from further away in time and some from recent, like last week or a bit more recent. But last Christmas, I was doing the Hope Bringers course with yourself and Chris Duffett. I was an attendee on that course, and just being encouraged to listen to Jesus and then go out and share him with other people. And that particular session, we were asked to pray for an object, and then pray for a person, and then pray for a kind of message that God wanted to share with that person through that object. So I had a magnifying glass was the image I had straight away. And on it were written the words, God sees you and he loves you. And so we had quite a few magnifying glasses we've been bought over the years for our children. So I wrote on it in this kind of paints. And then I knew the lady that I wanted to meet up with, I could picture where she was and which shop she was in. And but I didn't know her name or anything. And so I went.
So this wasn't someone you knew? This is
no,
just in your mind's eye?
No, I just had a picture of this person and the shop. And so I went to that shop, and this person wasn't there, explained to the person, to the people in the shop, described this person. Oh, no, I don't know anybody like that. And I thought, oh, maybe I've got it wrong. I'll just keep praying. And this went on for weeks and weeks. This was in September that we've been asked to do this. And then it went on, the weeks and weeks and weeks went on. And then just before Christmas, so my children and my husband all knew about the magnifying glass lady, because I kept saying, oh, we need to go past that shop again. I just need to pop in again and see if I can find her. And then I thought, oh, maybe I've got it wrong. I'll just put the magnifying glass in the summer house, which is like our kind of prayer space. And just, it could just be a reminder that we don't always get it right. That's okay. And then I was picking the kids up from school and put them in the car. And just as I was putting the last one in, somebody clipped the door. And rather than being very holy and righteous and going, oh, well, I'll just let that go and drive home, I thought I'll get in the car and I'll follow that person and see. My plan had been that I would say, oh, you've clipped my car. I don't know if you realize, let's try and exchange. But as I was driving on a route that I wouldn't normally go following this car, my children were in the back saying, Mommy, let it go. You can't always have the apology you want. All this kind of things at me, all the things you say coming back out at you. And anyway, so I turned around, went back into the village. And just as I did, I thought, I'll just nip into that shop. And, I'm sure the lady won't be there, but I'll just give it one last cry. It was just for Christmas. And I walked in and she was there. The lady was there. And I was just frothing with joy and excitement to have seen her. And I wouldn't have seen her had I gone back the normal way. It was only because I'd gone that way. It was her first day in work for a really long time. And because she'd been really, just really fearful because of COVID. And then the shops had been shut anyway. And she hadn't been put on rota when it all opened back up again. And I shared this word with her. I said, oh, I believe God speaks today. And I've got this magnifying glass. And it says, God sees you and he loves you. And I think it's about God saying that you always feel invisible. This is a really, actually quite a full lady. That God feels that, that you feel that you've been invisible your whole life, but God sees you and he loves you. And she said, that has been my script my whole life. Even though I'm quite big in size, you'd think that people would see me, but people just look straight through me. They don't even remember me after they've met me. And I've been so depressed about that my whole life. And I've been having, really lots of really dark thoughts about it, and this means such a lot. Can I have the magnifying glass? And so I went back in the next day, gave it to her, showed her in the book where I'd written it all. And I've been in a few times since to be able to pray with her and just, start to build a connection with her, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't hear any others. That's enough. I don't know.
That's a great story. And I love your persistence there, in the sense of, God had said something, and like, you were willing to sort of say, okay, maybe God, I had got it wrong, but that sort of just keeping visiting. And it is amazing how, perhaps when you were feeling less than holy was the time that you actually
exactly.
ended up, just God
that
prompting you
often
at that
seems
point.
to be the case, actually.
That is a great story. And just to encourage you, Chris is one of those that are watching today. Frothing with joy, Nicki. So good. Love how you're obedient, bringing that word. And it's just, it is good, isn't it, that God just meets us in these places, and that God, what you said to that lady about that she is seen, that is part of when we speak to people in that way, that sense of they are known by God. God has a word for them that they, I mean, just whatever that word is, actually, one of the things that word says, the fact that God's speaking to them and knows them, just makes it, the creator of the universe is mindful of them. It's just an amazing message to receive. So, I mean, so that's sort of one way that you practice that, the object. And are there other practices that you have used or been led to use as you've sought to share?
Well, it's often more just that I'll pray in the morning that God will speak to me or use me in some way to be a blessing. And so when we're on holiday recently in October half term, we just went to my parents' caravan, and we'd run out of ketchup. And one of my children won't eat food without ketchup. Lots of foods without ketchup. So I went to the shops feeling a bit grumbly to buy some ketchup. I was in the checkout and just said to the lady behind the checkout, "How's your day going?" And she said, "Oh, well, really, I won't use the exact words because they were quite strong, but not great, actually. And because my daughter's at home trying to kill herself, and I don't know if she'll be there when I get back."
Wow.
And so I just, obviously said, "That must be so hard, and I'm so sorry for you. And I believe that God really hears our prayers, can make a difference. Do you mind if you tell me your daughter's name, and I'll pray for her? And what's your name too?" And she was just really visibly touched that I would even say that to her. And so I have been praying for her since. I went back in the next consecutive days of the holiday, but she wasn't on shift. So, but I'm still praying for her. So hopefully when we get to go back, I'll at some point get to see her again. But I know that doesn't always happen. You don't always get to see the person that you're praying for. But I trust and believe that God would have heard those desperate prayers, because she was clearly, and her son had already killed himself the year before. Wow. So she was obviously in a very dark situation. But that was just buying ketchup in the supermarket. So I think it's just looking out for people. I was a mum in a toddler group last week who was asking week before last, was asking lots of questions about Jesus. And I've just kept talking to her each week, and she's come to church a couple of times. She was just asking lots of questions. So I invited her around. We had a chat, and she came to faith. That doesn't always happen as clearly as that, but that was amazing. So just beginning to walk with her, teach her how to pray and read the Bible and some of those kind of early things.
So I mean, in terms of practices, you're saying sort of the asking God, at the beginning of the day, just to use you. Maybe point you in the right direction, or have your eyes open to the, because it can be very easy, particularly like you say, when that in your mind you're grumbling about the ketchup, and to be preoccupied with your own own world, whether that's what's actually happening or what's going on in your head, and to miss the people around you. And it's that practice of just being mindful of those around, and being able to share what God might have with them. I know I was giving blood last week, and almost I wasn't being very good at being aware, but somehow the lady who was taking my blood willingly, I was giving blood willingly, but we began a conversation about her father dying about a year ago, and her mother was really struggling, and just asked if I could pray for her. And I think sometimes we just go through our days almost oblivious to the lives that others are living and the things that they're dealing with, and it's like being aware of people and their stories. And any other practices or stories that you want to share, or maybe just sort of principles that that you have in your mind as you go through this desire to be open to God to use you to share faith and
I think that's it for me. It is simply, there's probably more things I could do, but I think it's just simply for me just praying that God will show me the people, and then trying to be really intentionally interactive with people while I'm out of the home, out of our home. When I'm in our home, I might be a bit more, needing to charge up. But while I'm outside, I try and be full of smiles and interested in other people, and trying to trigger conversations wherever I am, whether that's on the school gate or shopping, or even if I'm tired, I try and just pull that out a bit and chat with people, because invariably it will lead on to a conversation that leads on to a conversation or builds a relationship, and then that will come back to a conversation another day. It's quite often easy to say, what did you do at the weekend? And then people are often very polite and ask you back, what did you do at the weekend? I would say blah, blah, blah on Saturday. And then on Sunday I go to church. I'm a Christian. I go to the church in Chapel St. Peter. And then if people are interested, they'll often pick up on that and then come back to it and say, oh, that's interesting, you go to church, or they won't. But at least then the seed is there while you're chatting to them on other occasions. And then just sometimes people will quite randomly say to you, you're a Christian, aren't you? Do you mind just praying about this thing? But it's because you've kind of already laid it out there somehow. So
would you say you're naturally an extrovert then, or is that? It sounds like maybe. No. Okay.
No, I'm not.
So it sounds like you step out your comfort zone quite a bit in order to do that, to be able to.
I think I was maybe an extrovert at one point in my life, pre children and tiredness. But now I would say I'm an introvert. I definitely, after I've been with big groups of people, want to kind of just come away and charge back up again. But I love to connect with people. I love finding shared interests, or just cracking a smile out of somebody who's looking like it's a hard day, or I love that. But I think that's less so about extrovert, introvert, and more about just, I love people. I just love people. I love, any way that God can use me to try and be some sort of blessing to other people. So I think it comes more from that than extrovert, introvert. So I don't know. That makes sense.
But in terms of your natural inclination, it sounds like, as I say, you move out of your comfort zone a bit in order to help start those conversations. But that it clearly filled with the love of God that He gives you for those people.
It's definitely from God. Yeah.
And so you said about the question, how's your day going, which you said to the lady when you were buying the ketchup. Are there other sort of, just very sort of practical tips for those that are watching this, that might sort of ways to start conversations with people are there other ways that you start conversations with people? Or?
Well, this time of year is, easier, I think, because you can say, you can ask people about, they have plans for Christmas. Even strangers will talk about their plans for Christmas. Do you have plans for Christmas? And then somewhere in there, they'll, I don't know, be a change in body language or something when they're talking about something. And that might just give you a hint that there's something there that maybe they want to talk about, or they don't, but at least you can pray about that even when you leave that person. Even if they say nothing, you can still pray for them as you're walking away. Or Lord, there was something in that moment that I think you were trying to show me. Help me to pray for that person. Either that I'll see them again, or you'll just speak to them in that, or whatever. So I think just listening intentionally, being interested in the person, and looking at everything they're giving you when they're talking. That might be my therapist hat. I don't know. But just being genuinely interested in them.
So interested in them, and you use the word intention as well, that almost as you go about your day, being intentional about not sort of forcing opportunities, but actually pushing doors to see if they open. And
sometimes people, I think I've had people before that I've talked to who've said, do you know, I've been walking up and down this village all week, you know, going to the shops or whatever, and nobody said hi, and you're chatting away to me. That's really lovely of you, or something. But so it might even just be that you're just bringing a bit of joy, and you don't even know that that person around you needed it that day. I don't know. It's just, it's just being intentionally trying to love the people around you in whatever tiny or big way that is. Do you want to go in front of me in the queue? I can see you've got a little one, or I don't know, whatever. But everybody does that. It's just looking out then for the moment after that might lead on to a conversation, or at least you might next time be able to say, oh, hi, it's nice to see you again, or I don't know. Just being relational.
There may be people from the north of England, which in my experience is quite a lot more friendlier in sort of those public spaces, who are like, people don't speak to one another on the streets. And in the south, my wife had that experience in Cambridge. She's from the West Indies, and she talked to someone on the street, and he said, I've been walking this way to work forever, and no one's ever said good morning to me. And it's like, really? And that is, I think, we can just live quite insular lives, can't we? And actually just sort of, being friendly, smiling, saying hello can make a real difference and open up something. I want to come back to the magnifying glass. Well, not specifically the magnifying glass, but the whole thing about prophetic words, because there may be some people watching this who that isn't something that they're familiar with or have experienced before, that actually God is able to give you something that's specific for somebody else. And can you talk us through that a bit? And how do you know it's God speaking to you, rather than the fact that you had a slice of cheese for lunch or whatever?
I think that's like the golden question, isn't it? How do you know it's Jesus? I think it comes through practice, doesn't it? Well, as in, I remember really struggling with this piece when I went to YWAM, and you'd have to go off every morning, and not have to, encouraged to go off every morning, listen to God for what he wanted you to do that day, particularly when you're on outreach, and they'd all come together, share what God had said, and then that would decide what you were doing that day. And I used to think, well, I don't think I can hear him. And I'd sit there and I'd get hugely frustrated that I couldn't hear anything. Everyone else had come back with all these words. And then eventually somebody said to me, it's just sounds almost the same as your own natural inner voice, but it's just like the tiniest fraction different. And it's so subtly different that if you didn't quite concentrate, you'd miss it. And if you pray for God to speak to you, he will speak to you. And therefore, the things that follow after you've asked him to speak are quite often God. It'll come really quickly. So be it feels like a thought that's just gone through my head. Sometimes it's really quite tangential to what I'm thinking about. So I think that was a weird thought. And then over time, as you act on those things, sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. But then you start to hear a little bit more that really subtle difference that is God's voice rather than your own internal voice. And then you see more and more things happen that would just never have happened by your own human making. So there's lots of examples. I'm trying to think of a good one, but just I don't know when there's been. I remember being on a plane once with a friend, and I was reading. This is a long time ago. I was reading a Christian book, and this guy next to us was kind of going, "Oh, what book are you reading?" Just chatting to the two of us, and I just had this thought this is going to be a really significant conversation. So rather than just like, oh yeah, it's a nice book, I kind of carry on. We talked for a while. I don't know if this is the best example actually, but anyway, as we were talking, I felt like God had kind of said about asking him, well, ultimately we all have to make a decision what's going to happen when we die, which feels like a really big, strong thing to say to somebody. That wouldn't naturally be my evangelistic sort of conversation. But then he was kind of really taken back, and he was like, oh, I don't really know. Lots of people worry about that kind of thing, but when's it ever going to happen? Within about 2 seconds of that, we hit turbulence in the plane. And my friend and I looked at each other. It was really quite bad. They put the sound, said the note, I'd really like people to put their seatbelts on and blah, blah, blah. And this guy looked so freaked out. He was really freaked out. And normally that would have made me really anxious too. But I just had this total peace that God was just saying, this is part of my conversation. Oh, that's maybe quite an extreme example. I should think of it. Anyway, it ended up being a really good, significant conversation with this guy because the turbulence stopped. And then he was asking us all this stuff about how do you become a Christian? How do you know? And everything. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a better, less dramatic example. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I think what you shared there is that you do what you do. You follow the prompting and you just act in obedience to it. And God can and in that situation did sort of make it clear that he was doing his part. And whether that's invisibly in the other person's heart as those words are sort of settling, even if you don't see that. Or whether it is something in the circumstances that makes it clear that God you're cooperating with God in this conversation. That's quite a dramatic. It is a dramatic story, but it does show that God is at work in and not always visibly, but yeah, this is that's really.
I think it's just practice, isn't it? Just the more that you spot that thought, oh, I think he wants me to go and talk to that person, or actually I'll go into that shop over there, even though that wasn't really my plan. I'll go in there because I think there might be something going on there and then you might go into that shop and nothing's happening. But if you hadn't gone into that shop, you might have missed a moment. It's just little.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you can get out of the habit of doing that. And then, so I used to do that a lot. And then I did really get out of the habit of it. And then the Hope Bringers course was actually so good for me to just get me back into the habit of doing that again, because we had to do something each time. Each time we met, we had to go off and then do something, listen to God and do something about that. It got me back into that habit of doing that again regularly. And then it's been easier to kind of maintain that again. So it's really good to encourage each other and have an intentional, I'm going to go out and do something today about that. Then it becomes part of your lifestyle, and it becomes easier to hear him, and on it goes.
Yeah. Nick, I'm just going to, we are going to have a bit more of a conversation, but because you mentioned the Hope Bringers course a couple of times, the Hope Bringers course isn't running at the moment, but it was something that, like you say, Chris Duffett and I led. Chris is, just going to put this up. Chris is one of the co-principals of the Light College and Collective, who offer training in evangelism, foundation degrees, and other degrees accredited through, I think, the University of Chester and Northern Baptist College. So if you are interested in doing some training, do look up that website, lightcollege.ac.uk, and connect with the Light College and Collective, or find them on Facebook. And also, let me just, I'm just going to just come back to the fact, so that we're talking today because of the 123 Go project. And this is an initiative that we're preparing for Easter 2022, 15th to the 17th of April, where one gospel is going to be taken and creatively shared on the streets 2 by 2 over 3 days. And what we're encouraging people to do is to sign up. And I'm just going to post a link into the comments, the chat, or comments on Facebook and YouTube, which we're broadcasting to at the moment. And if you're wanting to sign up for that initiative, then please do that. click on that link, sign up. What we're encouraging to do is, as individuals, sign up to get our newsletter, and then take the initiative to your church. Encourage your church to make a decision to be part of this, and then the church can sign up on the website 123go.life, and then work out what you're going to do over that weekend. We're going to be putting some ideas up over the next few months. We've got a list that's coming out, Chris's top 10 ideas for creatively sharing the gospel. So we're going to be putting that up probably early in the new year. So do look out for that. But do go and click on the link I've just put in the comments, and you can sign up for more information. So it'd be good, and Nicki, tell us a bit about what you're doing now, because I know recently you've sort of you're talking to people on the streets and that sort of every day, just being aware of what God might be prompting you to do. But I think you've picked up something slightly different more recently. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so in June 2020, I did an online course with Yinka and a lady called Jenny, who are at the Gate Church, and it was about art and evangelism. And so I thought I was going on that to learn about it, but it was more about how you're going to be part of helping God to release that in your church. And during that first session, when I was thinking, I'm on the wrong course, I thought I was coming on to learn. Oh no, it's not about releasing it, I can't do that. God then just spoke into that and gave me this vision for the church, and was saying about bringing he wanted me to bring out the artists and the dancers and the potters or sculptors and the worshippers, and that as they were gathered together, then his truth and love would flow down the community like a tidal wave. People would come to faith. So I'm just trying to still pray through and work that through with Jesus. So some of the things have been, he's led me to different books to read, like Encountering God Through Dance by Sarah Tana or something, probably pronouncing that completely wrong, but that was a really amazing book. It really changed my view and understanding of dance and movement in a prophetic and healing and ministry and evangelism kind of sense. And so I'm starting to journey with God in that. So he's given me like a movement and then told me what that movement means, like a kind of movement language. And I'm starting to spend time with Jesus and learn more words in that movement language. And as I'm doing that, he's telling me a bit more how he wants, sort of rewriting my script or my understanding of dance and movement, and how he wants that to be used in evangelistic, healing and prophetic ways. And so the plan is in January to start to gather people together who he's shown me, and also who've already know that they've got that gifting, to start to begin to explore that together. Not sure quite how that will look yet, but anyway, I'm hoping that God's going to help me with that. And then also alongside that, I had some words in the past about art and prophecy. So I'm just, trying to step out into that. So there's a couple of pictures that he's got me to paint so far. And then I've given it to somebody with the words that he's expressed alongside that. Well, one was for somebody and the other one was him telling me about a picture that I've had repeatedly over the years. So I used to paint the swirl all the time when I was painting. I always wanted to be able to paint, but I could never seem to want to draw anything apart from the swirl. I sort of always wanted to paint the swirl. My husband and I would say, "What is it about the swirl? I don't know what that's about." And then as I stepped out so in this course, then I'd asked God one day, "What is it about?" And then I was dancing, and he was saying about painting at the same time as dancing. So I'd painted this swirl as I was kind of spinning, and then I painted this swirl. And then God said, "That's my Holy Spirit. And as you dance and paint, and as others dance and paint, then my Holy Spirit won't just swirl, it will be released." And it was really exciting so we're hopefully going to do something like that as well with paint, with art and sculpture, that there'll be sessions. That's the plan from January, where again, people who either God has said that person over there has got that gifting, they don't even know they have it yet, or or people who have it will just be able to come together and start to explore that together. And then as an aside to that, lots of people keep coming up to me and saying, who don't even know about this, keep coming up to me. So people who aren't Christians saying, well, wouldn't it be lovely if we had this space to just do art together without it being a class or anything, but just to do art and have company. So there was a lady the other day who was a Sikh lady who just came into our church to see the enormous Christmas tree that was in the front. And I was just chatting with her and this other lady, and she was saying, oh, it'd be such a nice space to do art in. And I was saying, oh, that's really interesting, because actually I believe God speaks, and he's been saying about gathering people together, and that actually, as we gather together, he'll show us more about who he is as we're just painting together. She was like, oh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to be part of that. So I'm not sure how we're going to deal with this time-wise or anything. I'm just praying it through with Jesus and praying for more people, obviously, to join me, because I won't be able to, and it's not right for me to do it all. I want it to be something that releases in the church. More and more people are released.
It's quite exciting. I mean, I have there's a church up in Suffolk that has started something called the Maker's Place, which is faith and art going together, and it went online and grew quite a lot over COVID, and but I think the sense of the church is quite focused on music, historically, hasn't it? And as a source of encountering God and actually rediscovering some of the other arts and how God can be present in that. And it sounds like you're saying, some people who are who God's showing you and who don't necessarily. I mean, it'd be good to. Would you call yourself an artist? Or are you?
No, I mean, I don't know. I like painting, and I did GCSE art, but I haven't done courses and things since. But what was lovely about the course that I went on with Yinka and Jenny is that Jenny had never painted before, ever. And then God literally said to her, I want you to put this color paint on this part of this page, and this color on this part, and this shape in this color on this part. And at the end, as she stepped back, he then showed her what it was and told her about it. So that made me feel really encouraged. Well, I can do that, Jesus. If you show me all the different pieces, then I can do that. And some of the people I've spoken to who said, oh, no, I'm not an artist. And then I've explained that to, but God can help you to supernaturally paint, not just to supernaturally paint when you don't have that natural gifting. And then they said, I have always dreamed that I would be able to paint with Jesus. And their whole body and everything, their whole face lights up. And so it'll be exciting to see how those who are gifted and then supernaturally empowered as artists, and those who are not gifted in a natural sense but are supernaturally empowered, how all those pieces come together to create and display a new kind of piece of Jesus. Because what he's been saying, as I've been praying with him, is about he wants, to use more of the new tools for a new season and Technicolor worship. So it isn't just music, like you're saying. And lots of other people in other areas are doing this. Obviously, Chris is doing, this hugely. And Jenny, this lady, is doing it a lot. Loads of other people are, but we're not really doing that in our church at the moment. So it'll be, I'm just excited to see how God's going to do that and what he's going to do in the community, more importantly, through that, so that we will have a richer language to worship him, but also that we will have new ways to share the good news with Jesus. And maybe even that he's talked about, like the building having lots of different displays of his character and his goodness through pottery and art and dance and things, and then maybe having some sort of time where people come through, and as they see those things, God speaks to their heart. And actually, somebody's just shared a word with me last week that they've been sitting on for a year and praying with Jesus about doing an exhibition of art that's created in the church. There's just little pieces that he's kind of bringing together. So it's exciting and terrifying and exciting at the same time.
And with the movement as well. So it's with our bodies, with all of our senses, not just, we've been very good at sort of talking just to the brain in our churches, haven't we? And, hearing things rather than actually seeing, and God being able to meet us in every aspect of our being. And so it's really exciting. And as you just shared, some people who don't feel naturally gifted, but God can use them supernaturally, and hopefully that's an encouragement to others that are watching. I'm not sure if anyone watching has got any questions for Nicki. It's been great to talk to you. Is there anything as we sort of come to a close, Nicki, that you might sort of just want to say to those that are who have been listening or watching this, who are thinking, oh, I don't know, could God could use me in this? I mean, any sort of final words of encouragement or?
You totally can. I felt like that as well. I thought it was only for the super godly in church who shared words every week and had been holy forever and never had blips and lost their faith and made lots of bad choices at uni. Couldn't possibly be me. God could never use me, but actually he uses all of us, and he uses different people to reach different people. So if only some people go out there, then only those sorts of people will be reached. We just need every type of person to be reaching every sort of person in every sort of method, whether that's art or music or as a doctor or whatever, as you're standing in the post office queue, as a mummy, I don't know, whatever context. We can love people. We can all love people. We know how to love people, and we can all talk about the one that we love. And if you just try and you step out, even though your heart's racing, God will always meet you in it. And even if you can't see the evidence, you can trust that God's going to do something with that. And as you do it more and more opportunities open up and you get a bit more confident. You just got to start and not give up, and just keep trying, because there's so many people out there who are hurting and I need us to pray for them, like that lady in the supermarket. I wouldn't have known about that had I not asked. And that's not about, well, look at me for asking. That was just, I was in a habit of asking. But had I not asked, and most of the time people just say, yes, I'm fine, thanks, and that's it. But what if I hadn't asked, and then I've been able to pray for that lady, and we know that prayer makes a difference. So we can all be kind. We can all ask somebody how they're doing. That's something we can all do. So you can definitely do it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nicki. And bless you. Thank you for your obedience. Thank you for listening and speaking in obedience to God. And it sounds like God has used you to bless others through that. So, which is great. We've got another. I hope as we listen to Nicki, that ordinary tag, God, you can see that God uses us and does extraordinary things through us, and can do extraordinary things through you as well. So thank you, Nicki, for that encouragement to us today. Next month, we've got a lady called Sue Bradshaw who's going to join us. So do look on the Facebook group. Do look at 123go.life on Facebook, or go to our website 123go.life. Or sign up to look at the comments again and sign up to our mailing list to make sure you've got information about when next month's session is. And do start thinking about and talking to people at your church about what you might do Easter weekend, just to creatively share the gospel in your community and amongst your neighbours. I'm gonna pray for Nicki briefly, and pray for this initiative, and to pray for those who have been watching. So we'll draw to a close in a moment, but first let me pray. Father, thank you for your presence with us as we have spoken today. Thank you that you are active in the world, that you are mindful of those that we encounter, that they are known by you, and you want to use us to communicate that reality to them. So Lord, help us to be intentional, help us to be attentive to your voice, and help us to be bold to share and to trust. Thank you for the stories that Nicki shared and for her willingness to be obedient to you. Lord, we just pray for her ongoing ministry, particularly as she seeks to develop that art ministry with those that God is leading her to and drawing to her. And we just pray for each of us, Lord, that you would be at work in our midst, and use us to share the love that you have poured into our lives, to share that love with others. We ask for your blessing upon us and for the 123 Go initiative as we seek to put these things into practice for Easter next year, but for the whole of next year too, Lord. We pray that it might be a year when you increase our boldness and our willingness to be those that share your love with others. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Yes, Lord. Amen.
So thank you, everybody, for watching, and take care. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. See you. Bye.